Hey friends, Olivia from Ollie. Between new routines and the ultimate group project known as parenting, you need science-backed solutions that work with your life. That's where Ollie comes in. Start your mornings off right with multis made to support nutrition and immune health. Choose from our lineup of gut-supporting probiotics, and we've got occasional sleep support to help the whole fam chase their big dreams. Head back to class with the #1 gummy supplement brand. Stock up on ollie.com today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Taira spent decades becoming whoever a room needed her to be. She left Thailand at 5 years old. She built a dance career, then a fashion business, reinventing herself every time. Then cancer showed up and stopped all of it. Sitting at a kitchen table, she got the call. And somewhere in the middle of chemo brain and losing her memory, something strange happened. Fragments of her past started coming back. She couldn't stop writing them down. 6 months later, she had a book. This is her life shift story.
And I remember this so vividly, Matt. We were at lunch, and in between bites, he reaches over and touches the lump, closes his eyes for a moment. He opens it back up and says, "It's cancer. Come see me Monday."
You're listening to the Life Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Gilhooly. This show is built around one simple idea, that sometimes a single moment can change how we see everything. Each week, I talk with someone about the moment that shifted their life and how they learned to live differently after it. These are not stories about having it all figured out. They are stories about what it looks like to keep going once the story changes. Thank you for being here. Here's today's story. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Life Shift Podcast. I am here with Taira. Hello, Taira.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I am surviving the Florida summer. It's very hot here, and I just stay inside for the next, 6 months and just not leave the house.
It works. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, thank you for wanting to be a part of the Life Shift Podcast. It has been something so special to me, and when I started it, I just didn't anticipate it being such a healing journey for myself to be able to talk to now over 275 people about these really important life shift moments in their lives. A lot of them fairly traumatic, and some of them really inspiring from the point of like, I just woke up one day and I decided to change this about my life. And I've just learned so much about myself and my own journey by hearing other people's stories. So it's just really showing the power of storytelling to me. And I'm so glad that you're going to be part of it.
Thank you for having me. I think stories are beautiful. I think getting people together and sharing stories helps us feel not as alone.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah. I think a lot of people I've talked to about these life shift moments, in those moments, it's really easy to feel alone and feel like, how do I take the next step? Nobody understands how I'm feeling, even though like logically that other people have gone through something similar. The feeling of it is very isolating a lot of times.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think it reminds us to have a little bit more compassion too, because we never know what someone's carrying now more than ever.
Yes. Yeah, we do. It's very cliche, but we do have a lot more in common.
True. Yeah.
That separates us. So anyway, before we get into your story, can you tell us who you are in 2026? Like how you show up in the world, how you identify, however you want to answer that is good with me.
Okay. Well, that answer has gotten simpler over time because I'm not carrying so many different versions of myself anymore. For a long time, I was really very good at adapting. I had a different version of myself for different rooms, different people, different stages of life. It helped me survive, but it made it really hard for me to know who I was underneath all of it. And then cancer interrupted it all. It stopped the cycle, the pattern, and it forced me to ask. It forced me to stop asking who I needed to be and finally ask who I'd been all along. That sounds crazy.
It doesn't.
I just, for so long, I thought my life was a series of reinventions.
Mm-hmm. You thought you were Madonna.
Yeah, I thought I was I would leave one behind. I'd be this new person. Every time life
Yeah.
changed, I was someone new.
Yeah. Which can have its own allure.
Absolutely. I've done it
Yeah.
my whole life,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And then writing helped me create a little bit of distance to kind of to see my life as a whole. And I was able to see that my life was a continuous story. It wasn't separate in any way, which, it's pretty obvious now, but at the time I felt like I was living different chapters. So today I show up with less proving and more purpose. I care more about what's true than what's impressive. More about connection than perfection.
Yeah. I love that.
I think of myself as a writer and storyteller, not because I suddenly became one, but because I stopped talking myself out of it. I don't think I'm done becoming myself yet. I hope not, but yeah, I definitely feel more at home.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful.
In myself than I've ever had
it's like
before.
self-permission to just kind of explore and build upon this version of yourself. Whereas I can relate to that previous version that you describe of yourself, and we'll get into your story, which you kind of gave away the life shift already.
Sorry. That's good. Sweat with it.
when my mom died when I was 8, nobody had the tools. And so I didn't learn how to grieve. And so I pushed it away for 20 years. But in that whole period of time, I took on kind of a similar role to you, in which I had to be perfect for everyone in whatever. And it was because I was afraid that if I wasn't, my dad was going to leave or someone else was going to leave, because my mom left in my tiny 8-year-old brain. Right. And so
yeah,
I at some point, I think in my 30s, I was finally like, okay, you got nothing to prove. But it's really hard to shake that. So I'm interested to hear your story and how, how you were able to, and I know in some cases you were forced to, and look at yourself differently. So I'm really looking forward to your story, because unfortunately, or maybe fortunately in some cases, your story, although unique to you, is something that a lot of people can relate to, and what you went through. Yeah. So I love for the guests to kind of paint the picture of that before version. So however far back you need to go to give us some context into your life, maybe you can kind of paint the picture of who you were before this life shift moment.
Okay. Well, I was someone that was always moving. I was always chasing the next opportunity, the next project, the next version of myself. I was really good at, like I said, adapting, becoming what was needed to be successful. I was always, I was always productive, always busy.
How far back are we saying? Like kid, like as a child?
As a child, I just throughout my life, as a child, my dad was a chef. And so they were always busy building multiple restaurants. So they put me in different activities. So I was always busy. I was always doing something. And the one thing that I ended up being really good at was dance. And it was the one place where I didn't feel like I had to belong or fit in or try to change myself. I was just myself, so that was a beautiful thing. It became my language more before I had a voice. So yeah, I grew up feeling like I measured myself with what I could accomplish, what I could produce, what I could become. And
do you know why? Were your parents were they driving you to succeed?
Well, no, I think it started when I was really young. I started really early. When we came to the States when I was 5.
Okay. Where'd you come from?
From Bangkok, Thailand.
Okay. The hottest place I've ever been.
Really?
Yes, it was so hot. It was May and it was so hot.
Okay, that's hot. Yeah, you can't go in May. May is horrible.
Anyway, so you moved when you were 5 to the States, so a little less hot.
I went to the desert. Anyways, it was a small town. But I came here and I didn't speak the language. I didn't sound like anyone and I didn't look like anyone. And like most kids, I wanted to belong. Mm-hmm. I wanted to fit in and I didn't. And when you're different, you pay attention. You learn how to read a room. You learn what's rewarded and what's not. So that's when I learned how to adapt, you know? Yeah. So since I was little, I think, and then I just took that into every chapter of my life after that, thinking it was a strength at the time. I thought that was my superpower.
Okay.
I could be anywhere.
So it was not adapting out of fear necessarily throughout your life.
I think it was adapting I just wanted to belong. I wanted to be a part of something. I didn't want to be weird and awkward and, the outsider. So I believe that's when it really started, and then on top of that, my parents had a restaurant business. My sister, she's 2 years older than me. She went into the Air Force. I picked dance, fashion, being an actress, then eventually writing. None of these, and there was no roadmap for where I was going. So I think that played into it as well.
Yeah.
You
got to prove yourself.
Trying to prove that this unconventional path could be real. So I just was like one after another, after another, after another.
Yeah. And when you were changing and adapting, was this out of necessity because you were trying something new, or you were placed into a different quote unquote environment? Or was it like, okay, I'm done with that persona, I'm jumping into this one and I have to adapt here?
I think I just was always curious. That was another thing.
Okay.
I believe that once I did this, and when your value is tied to what you do,
mm-hmm.
at some point there's an expiration date. I think you're in it for so long, and then you're like, okay, well, I think I've hit my max here. I'm done. Now what's the next thing? And you're always searching for what that next thing is. I think that's how it kind of all happened. I mean, and then, so let me lead up to the cancer part.
Go for it. Yeah.
It's like, so this had been going on for so long. And this was a couple years before my diagnosis, right? I was already going through a major life transition. I was winding down my children's fashion business that I had built. It was like, okay, I'm done. And it's time to move on. It just wasn't fun anymore for me. I had done it for like 10, 12 years.
Wow.
And it was right before COVID. COVID wasn't the reason why I was shutting it down, but it definitely accelerated everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the world was slowly opening up, right? And there was this collective exhale. People were getting back into their lives. They were planning, making plans, seeing what was next. And right around that time, I found a lump. And I did what most people would do, went to go see my doctor, and she dismissed it pretty casually. Oh, don't panic. It's a cyst. It'll probably drain. Let's give it a few months. So when someone gives you the least disruptive explanation, you kind of want to roll with that, right? So I stayed in that version of the story for a while. And then I had lunch with a friend of mine who was a kinesiologist. And I remember this so vividly, Matt. We were at lunch, and in between bites, he reaches over and touches the lump, closes his eyes for a moment. He opens it back up and says, "It's cancer. Come see me Monday." Right? I'm like, what? I said, wait a minute. It was one of those things. I mean, we were just eating. And the crazy part, I didn't really react in any kind of, I wasn't shocked. We just kind of went back to eating.
Very matter of fact too.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it was like he said it, and I think we both knew at that moment there was nothing we could do about it. So we finished our lunch.
I mean, you could have fallen apart and panicked. I mean, there's a lot of things you could have done, but it seems that you chose the right option.
We just continued about our day. But I think that happens. I think shock enters the room, right, before your emotions do sometimes. And I think that's exactly what happened at that moment. So then after that, then it came the tests, the scans and the ultrasounds and the biopsies, and all of that began. And then when the nurse finally called to confirm that it was breast cancer, that lunch didn't feel that theoretical anymore. It was suspicion became reality. I just sat there, and I just remember sitting there and staring at the wall in complete disbelief and just crying. I didn't know.
Were you home? This was like a phone call that they gave you?
It was a phone call. I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I was just staring at the wall like, what?
Right.
Because I barely got sick. I barely got sick. So cancer, stepping into this, was completely different world.
Right.
And it felt extreme for someone who's never had to deal with anything. It felt like a second lockdown, to be honest with you, but at this time it was personal.
Mm. And too, like your existence before that, it seems that you had always proved you could accomplish whatever you chose to do in that curiosity. And now you have this thing that's slightly out of your control, right? Like,
and not really curious about this. So I was like, I
not
really
something
don't.
you want to get good at. Yeah.
No, I'm cool with this. Yeah.
But that can be a big shock for someone that is like always taking care of, like, were you very I was very independent and yeah, you could solve all the problems. And now you're like, shit, I got to give it to someone else.
Yeah. And so, and this is the wild part. So then I'm sitting there like, what do? I called the guy, his name is Charles. I had just started dating him. We had been only dating like a month, but he happened to work in the medical field. So I called him and I said, I remember saying, can you make this make sense? And he dropped everything and came to me and he took me out for ice cream. I laugh every time I tell the story because because it's very sweet, number one. But my life had just been split into a before and an after. And there I was completely gutted. I was terrified. And I was sitting there eating ice cream, trying to understand how the world looks exactly the same while everything else had completely changed. It was just such a weird experience.
Because your life feels like it's just halted to some kind of complete stop. And then you look around and the world is, everyone's continuing to enjoy their day and kids are enjoying their ice cream and ice cream still weirdly tastes good, even though you just got this bad news. And it's hard. I like when life stops you like that. It's very weird to try to pick back up and get like on the pace of the earth again.
For sure. But I think those two things can coexist. I think there are ridiculous moments in our darkest times and funny moments. And I think that's kind of what's beautiful about it. But at that moment, although it was this shocking moment, mm-hmm. it still felt abstract, the idea of cancer, because I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know what to do next, like it was just that. It didn't really get real until I would say the first day of treatment. Mm. So when I was watching that. Uh-huh.
You had like a couple series of life shift moments. One in which your friend reached over and was like, it's cancer. So this this elevates something. It's like, oh, I got to think about this.
Yeah, it's been a combination of little moments.
Right. And then you get the news, which for a lot of people is the moment, but life doesn't change until you technically start getting treatment, which is when you're like, that's the reality of it, right? I would imagine.
When you're sitting and watching the medication.
And you start to feel certain ways. And so
and you got I did the ice cap, which is torturous to begin with.
I don't know anything about it. Tell me more.
Oh, it's a cold cap and you freeze your scalp so you can keep your hair. It was like the only thing that I felt like I had any control over. So I suffered through it, and which is crazy because in my dance was my first career. There was a period where I shaved my head and was working all the time. And that's when I gave my hair. It was not a big deal. But now here I am, I'm begging. Yeah, exactly. And begging to keep one strand of hair on my head. Yeah. Just to have any sense of control.
Yeah. Because in previous life, you just shaved it and that was your choice. So now you don't want other things. You don't want the universe taking your choices away. I get it. It's also like we could look at it and say it's a control thing, but it's also a very powerful thing, right? I think that you can make these choices and you've been so confident up to how old were you around this time period when you were diagnosed?
I was 49.
This a bad question. No, you're not even 49 now. How does that happen?
Exactly. Can you believe that? So it took me till 49 to really get to know who I was.
Well, that's okay. I've heard other stories of people in their 60s just discovering themselves. But the point of asking your age is you had 49 years of living one way, the way of adapting, the way of pleasing others, if you will, in a lot of cases, pleasing yourself as well, like with what your choices and your curiosity. But that's a hard thing to like suddenly like, oh,
lose it
life
all.
is different. Right.
Like I haven't been doing it right, or I thought one way and it's completely the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that exploration like when you realize like you're
Well,
different now?
treatment was just, it was one of those things where I fought it for so long because I was trying to, I was trying to outwork it. I was trying to muscle it into something else, to the point where I was just like, there was nothing I could do. I was forced into such a weird stillness, which I hadn't had in a long time, and then had to look at everything. And that's when I realized that I had been constantly proving myself and always earning my worth and always doing the things where I was like, ew, wow, really? So now I can't do any of those things. So I had to really sit with myself, and all those questions came up. It was like the night after the first infusion when I was laying in bed, and it got really quiet. And I remember everything started surfacing.
Mm.
Everything that I had pushed aside for so long, all the pain, the regrets, the decisions I didn't, everything, Matt. And I was like, wow.
That you'd been outrunning for a while?
For a while. No.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is the beginning of a different kind of healing. It's not just a body. It's internal, it's emotional, it's everything. But it was so unexpected. I was like, where's this coming from? I was completely like, wow, there's cancer and now I got to deal with this. Like, who am I? Yeah. Those were the questions. Like, what am I doing?
Which is frightening in itself. It can be overwhelming.
It was frightening. And then finally I had to just surrender to the reality of, I couldn't fight the reality of what was happening. And in that stillness, it was just like, I just went along with everything. I was like, okay, I'm here. I guess I'm supposed to do this. So let's go. Now I'm like, okay, let's work this out. Okay, bring it. That's where I was at that point.
What did you choose? Like, did you go to like therapy? Did you like do certain things? Like, what was your choice?
I had an acupuncturist. I worked with a theta healer, and I would spend, like, when we started working together, we would spend like literally, it would be like 7 hours in one session. We were just peeling back everything that was uncomfortable, everything that triggered me. We worked on, we peeled it back, we looked at it and we reframed it. Like, it was kind of amazing, actually, because there was things that I was like, wow, because I don't remember a lot of my childhood. And that's probably a big part of it. I blocked out a lot of things. So there was a lot of things that surfaced that I was like, what? I had no clue. So then after treatment, I had chemo brain for like years. I was in for 2 years. I still have glitchy brain, but literally my memory was gone. For 2 years, I was just like, what am I doing? Is this what it's supposed to be? I could connect thoughts for a long time. I kept forgetting what I was doing, what I was saying. It was like I was being erased to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Frightening, though. Was it frightening? Or did you because it's weird. You probably knew something was up, right? Is that how you feel in that?
I was just like, I guess this is what you go through. Is this what it is?
But like, did you know? I guess there's the part of me is like, do you know that you're not remembering?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, because like sometimes, if some people don't know that they're missing those pieces, but if you're fully aware of who you are and you just realize that your brain is not functioning the same way, it's got to be double
I was
weird.
just really slow. Like, everything wasn't connecting as quick. And yeah, my boyfriend would be like really concerned. You just said this and you don't remember. You put that up. You don't remember. And I don't. And then I just accepted. I said, I guess I'm just supposed to, this is how it's going to be. And then at some point, I think I was at my hairdresser's and he was talking about lion's mane of all things. And he goes, I take lion's mane to help with, my memory and all of that. And I was like, okay, let me try it. So I tried it. I think it was that kind of helped, but I started getting my memory back, but it was coming back in fragments and it was coming at the weirdest times. Things that, it was like fragments and lines and stories and bits and pieces from my past was coming up. And I was like, what is this? So, and it was like weird. It was like I was catching them.
Yeah.
So I started writing them down to try to make sense of it, try to puzzle, put the pieces of the puzzle together. And Matt, the weirdest thing, when I started writing, I couldn't stop. It was like this purge, this obsessive thing. And I thought at first I was collecting pieces, and then the pieces started connecting to each other. And then 6 months down the line, I had this book. That's weird. But it was like I couldn't sleep. My eyes were swollen and I just could not stop writing. It was the weirdest thing. And then as I was writing, I was able to understand a lot of my past. It was like all these memories were coming back. It was strange. It was just the strangest thing. It really was.
This is going to sound like a rude question, but I don't mean it in this way. Do you think like that finding that writing and having that drive and passion, not only does it help with the healing part, but it's another thing that you can like, it's almost like another thing you can chase and be good at. Was there that sense, like the dance, like the fashion, all those other things? Was this a new version of that?
I thought it was, but the crazy part, it wasn't okay. That. I was just so intrigued by what was coming up and it was coming up so fast that I was writing. Here's the crazy part. And this is why I say that, Matt, because when I finally I was like, okay, I'm done. I was like, okay, now what do I do with it? I had a friend read it and she read like 4 chapters and she gave me like 2 notes. And I was like, okay, cool. That's all I needed. And then I went in, I might've read it through once and then that was it. I didn't obsess over it like I normally would have. I didn't tear it up. I mean, it's really raw because I was writing it real time. I wasn't away from this whole situation to kind of understand it. I really was trying to figure it out, as you guys are probably going to be reading it through to understand. You know, it's messy, it's raw, but it's real. It's the realest I've ever been.
Yeah. That's freeing. Was it freeing or scary?
Freeing, but it's also cringy.
Cringy?
It's a little cringy when you put all your most embarrassing moments, and I just wrote whatever.
But now they're out there. Like, I feel like that's the best part is now they're no longer trapped in you.
Now they know that girl that did that crazy thing. I'm like, yeah, that's me. But
and it's out there now. Nothing to worry about. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
You know, I can relate to that. I started probably 7, maybe 10 years ago now. I started just like unapologetically oversharing maybe. And what I found is it was so helpful for me. Of all the things that I didn't share with people because I thought they were going to judge me in a certain way or, you know, like whatever. And nobody, like, people reacted to it, but like, it wasn't scary as I thought it was going to be. And then also I would hear other people say, you know, like from, especially being a guy, and like have guys reach out and say, I can't believe you said that out loud, but I feel the same way. I would never tell anyone like out loud. And you're like, this is the win. So I can imagine for you, yes, here's all the dirty laundry of my life, but also like, it feels like that would be freeing, but I guess it could also be scary.
I mean, it is free. I mean, after I did it, it was also, it took me a minute to catch up to it.
Okay.
Because I said, what do I do with this now? And I think I went into, I wrote a book. I guess I need to share the story, you know, like why else would I do, you know, write this 412 pages of stuff? And then I said, okay, well then I kind of went into the designer girl, right? Because I said, well, then I'll only hire a designer, only put the book to make it really look pretty. And then I guess I'll put it out there. So now what do I do? And I think I was kind of present, but I wasn't really present. It's like, I think I didn't want to know too much because I might have stopped myself. I don't know. But I said, okay, I guess now we celebrate, right? It's my birthday. Let's throw a party. So I threw a party, launched the book, had people come, and kind of was present, kind of was not. But I felt like I was doing, it was purposeful, right? I felt like I was supposed to be doing exactly what I was doing, whether I was catching up to it or not.
Thinking back on that event, though, do you feel like you were performing for anyone like old version would have? Or did you feel more centered with yourself?
It was probably a mix of both, because I kind of left myself, because I had to make my speech, and I was terrified because I felt like an imposter, right? Because I wrote a book. I didn't plan to write a book. Here I am. I have a book, and I didn't quite believe I didn't quite believe that I was a writer yet, because it wasn't a planned thing. So that's what was hard.
Interesting.
You know,
You didn't
to
set out
own
to
it.
do it.
I didn't set out to do it.
Yeah.
It was never in the plans. It
The
kind of
universe just yeah. What did you learn about yourself in that process? Because I feel like that can uncover a lot of things. But was there anything surprising that you learned about yourself in writing that?
Well, I think the surprising thing was the reinvention part. I thought I would get rid of the old version and become someone new every time. And then when I looked back, I was like, it's all me. I'm the same person. Because it was always weird. Every time I started a new career, I would go into another world and it was another bubble. I never saw the connection between the little girl who loves just to tell stories into the dancer who loves to perform into this. I just thought they were separate lives, which is weird to me. But
you're in the moment, though. It's
I don't know.
When you're younger, too, I think when you jump from different things, you jump to the next thing and it almost feels like a restart. It almost feels like I'll speak for myself. This is my opportunity to create this newer version of me that exists in this world. And so I can see how that can be like a separation or seem like one, but it's hard to abandon ourselves completely. I would imagine that thread of who we are and what's driving us is probably, hopefully, continuing. And it sounds like this cancer diagnosis and going through the treatment and everything that allowed you to shed some of maybe the costumes that you were wearing and just kind of walk through the world just as you and not as,
definitely
the version you think everyone wants to see of you.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah, it stripped everything. I mean, literally, I could not performing like I used to, but I'm also in entertainment. So I was rewarded for many years for my performing, for putting the show on, all of that. So now it's just.
Where do you get that value now?
Being honest, doing meaningful work, really being genuine and showing up. Even when I don't feel like I want to, I do, because it feels purposeful. It really does. Yeah. And I think, when the book came out, I would get messages from people saying, thank you. I needed to hear that. Or from men and women, wow, I didn't know that you went through that, but it really showed me something about myself. Like I feel the same way. Wow, I didn't know you felt like that. So that was kind of cool to hear those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you look at them and you're like, ooh, that felt really tough. And now other people can relate to it. And it's like, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
And it brought you here, right? Like all the things that you chose to do and experience through your life now allows you and affords you this opportunity to reflect on and learn from and build from and create whatever version you want to be now.
And I think I really don't think I have control over a lot of things. I am just present. Yeah. And I listen to myself. I check in. Does this feel right? Great. Let's continue this way. Lead me, guide me. And I kind of go with that,
Yeah. That seems like so scary for me.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a whatever type 6 or something where you just like always have to have a plan. And like, you have to think about all the things that could go wrong and plan for all of them.
What sign are you?
Aquarius.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it is not related to the sign and those things. I think it's just from having a traumatic loss at a young age and not processing that for 20 plus years. You become like all the things that you were doing to save yourself and protect yourself, myself, snowballed into a very formed adult that was doing all these things and feeling this way. So a lot of it was really hard to shed. So I think of your story, and was it as easy as it sounds the way you're describing it to shed all of that for you? Or were there pieces that you wanted to hold on to because they felt safer? Or was it just easy to be like,
I mean, there was moments where it went back. I would go back and start doing a certain thing. Like with my boyfriend, when we started dating kind of backwards. We got right into it, right? We showed up where we were at that time. And then once I got through treatment, it was like, now what do we do? I remember trying to flirt and be cute and all that. And he was like, and I was like, okay, we've been there, done that. It's stupid. But you fall back into it. Of course, there's things that I do, but I look at and I laugh about it, because it's silly. It's so unnecessary. It really is half the time.
But do you think this is always like confusing to me in life is like, if you didn't do all those things before, do you think you could value the things now as much? You know, like if you weren't as aggressively chasing this, that, or the other, or being proving something or reinventing yourself so that you could fit in and people would, you know, like you or want to be around you. Do you think all of that would feel like, would what you're doing now and being very present, would that feel as rewarding? Like if you're always this way?
If I was always that way or
No,
always
this way.
this way.
Yeah, like since you were a kid. Like would it be a part of me is like,
Oh, I
would
see what
I
you're
be
saying.
talking to you right now and be open and sharing how screwed up my life was had I not lost my mom? Like
Right.
I had to do all and screw up and make the dumbest decisions and use her death as an excuse for good and bad things. And like, I think if I didn't do all those things as a growing human right now wouldn't feel as valuable. Right now, I wouldn't be open to conversations like this because I wouldn't have done. So in that other
Yeah.
version of me, I wouldn't have
I
done
mean,
all those dumb things.
right. If it wasn't, if I could choose a different teacher besides cancer, definitely I would. Because I don't, can't, I
Yeah,
don't
well,
wish
no,
this on
of course.
anyone. It's brutal. But I think, I would hope that I would be able to find this person. Although I can't deny that who I've become and what cancer how it has changed me as a person coming out on the other side of it. I would hope that I would be able to find this person, another way
I
and
guess
be
I'm
with
thinking,
you
yeah,
and
I
have
guess
this conversation
I'm
and
wondering
have a
if,
different life shift.
yeah, well, you've had
You know,
many, I'm sure. I'm sure it's
yeah.
not just, the cancer moment. I'm sure there are many moments in your life that have turned you into a different version of yourself or a more evolved version or a devolved version in some
One
instances
of
for some
the,
people. But
yeah.
I think about maybe it's this thought that always runs around in my head is that there are people out there, probably not many, but there are a lot of people out there that they've had a fairly level life. Maybe things are spoon fed to them, or maybe they didn't have to fight for certain things. And I wonder about those people that haven't had the hard. Do they ever get to a place where they can value where they are now because they never, they had such an easy going? I'm grateful for all the bumps because now everything feels right. But I don't know. I don't know if it would feel right if the bumps didn't happen.
But I'm wondering if, I guess
Yeah,
it's
help me
easy to
figure
look
those
at,
words out.
but I think it's easy to look at someone and assume their
Yeah,
life is great, right?
sure.
But we can't really know what's underneath. The fact that I just happened to have cancer, so you could tell I was sick.
Yeah,
But underneath it was fear, was trying to figure out who I was. There was questions underneath, but you would never know. I
yeah.
don't know. I think we look at people and we just assume that they're fine because on
That's
the
so rude of
outside,
me.
it's okay, Matt. We're just correcting her.
No, I think you're right. You're right. You're totally right. And I think that, I don't know if you would have felt this way. I think I probably would have said, yeah, everything's fine, even though subconsciously I was pushing everything down. And maybe on the surface, I didn't think anything was wrong.
Yeah, maybe you don't know anything is wrong.
Right. And
But
then something cracks
no,
you
now
open.
it's
You're
getting
like,
really. But I think we all. Do you think? Now, here's a question: do you think that at some point in our lives we are faced with, we're at a point where it's like we're like cancer or a turning point, your life shift, and do you think everyone has a life shift? I think everybody. Then they can just choose to not take it, right? To go left or right.
yeah. Yeah. And I think there's some that I count myself lucky that I've made it here because I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there's a lot of people that if we are lucky enough, we're able to make the right choices to get us to where we are. But some people, demons are bigger in certain situations and they go down different roads when they have the options, the same options, but some of us get lucky and we choose the proper way. It's curious when people like become this more evolved, like seemingly like everything feels great version of themselves, as you kind of describe. I'm sure you have your bad days, and I'm sure that
For sure.
things go wrong all the time. But when it feels like I'm living my best purposeful life kind of vibe, I'm always curious if like we could get there when we were 4 and stay there, or do we have to bump into something? There's no right answer. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I think bumping into something is where we check in. I think we're always being checked. We always have to check in to see where we're at.
Fine. You can win.
I don't think your life is just glorious.
I wish it was. But then I wouldn't notice it. We wouldn't know if it was
great
glorious.
Conversation. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
well, we'll skip this. So
I know we would have to have a cocktail over this one.
We would, yeah. And then we just spin around in circles, which I guess is the point. I think
there's no right answer.
Right. And we're all doing the best we can. Even when we make bad choices, we think maybe at the time that is the right choice that we should be making. What would you say, thinking of yourself and this version of yourself versus, maybe the 25-year-old version of yourself? Like, what is the biggest difference now in the way that you live your life compared to then?
It's quieter now. I think I defined success when I was 25, everything was external. Now it's more internal. I'm much calmer than I was before. I'm not so all over the place. At least I don't think I go that way, but I feel a little more grounded, and in my body, which is interesting. But yeah.
Finding this newer version of yourself, this quieter, more centered kind of version of yourself. Did your relationships with others change as you kind of fell into this? Because I think as performing before, it can be easy to lose those.
They did change, which was surprising. Some of them just disappeared overnight, which is weird to me. Because it really broke my heart a little bit, because I was like, wow, really? Like, that's it? Nothing? No conversation. They just simply disappeared. I just saw you the other day and now you're gone. Like, there's no communication whatsoever. But it's because you can't explain it, right? And I guess you're not supposed to. I definitely am a little bit, how I go about I'm a little bit different than I was before. I'm not so out there. Just different things. I'm happy staying home. It's like everything got really simple. Or is that age? I don't know. But I'm happy with the simple things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people will go. I just talked to someone yesterday about they ended up semi-adopting their sister and raising their sister from 8 years old. And then their sister / child was diagnosed with cancer and unfortunately passed from cancer, like I think 150 days later. And we were talking about how after that, like in that grief period, when we're changing, when we're evolving, when we see life differently because of what's just occurred, how friendships, how, just as you described, people disappear. And, we were talking about like, why? And I think a lot of it stems with like, none of us are taught how to function when things get scary and uncomfortable. So they see you going through all these things. They see that you're starting to be different. They might feel like they don't belong anymore. And so they disappear because it's easier to do that than it is to kind of connect with you differently. Do you see any of that making sense for other people?
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. Yeah. I just, for a long time, I was like, did I do something?
Right.
Because I always look at myself first. I don't ever look at, I always, and I really didn't do anything. I've just been here surviving. Yeah.
Does it surface regrets? Not the friendship specifically, but as you were kind of unpacking everything and sitting with yourself and learning, did it surface regrets for you at all?
No, it was more sadness than anything.
Okay.
There was a lot of letting go of things, my old identity and all that. So it was that with friends that don't, there's certain people for every season, right? Some just go away, but you hope that they don't because you've shared so many things together. There's friends that even, I had dinner with a girlfriend the other day and you could feel the shift, obviously, but she was like, wow, I knew about you, but now everyone knows about you, about everything about you. And I was like, So I think there's also what I was feeling, there's judgments, of course, because you are never going to, when did this writing thing come about? So there's a lot of those kind of things. And I'm like, I don't know. Literally, I'm just here doing what I'm told. So there's a lot of questions. Not that they mean to, but of course I would question it too. I'm like, what are you doing? Now you have a book.
Yeah, but those questions probably come from their own insecurities or things that
sure.
We do this as humans. And I think the more we can be open about the messy parts and the things that like we wish, I don't know. I guess it all comes down to me thinking about that 8-year-old version of myself that just wished the people around me like could give me any sort of like helpful advice versus making me feel like I had to show everyone I was going to be okay. And, like had we been talking openly about like, this is death. This is the finality of it. This is what you're going to go through. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to cry past 2 weeks, like all the things that we just assume. I think it just makes the world better because we're giving permission to people to live as you are now. Like we're living in the moment where we're feeling calm. We're feeling centered with ourselves. We're letting the universe take us where it needs to take us versus instilling all this fear and like, oh, we can't talk about that or we can't go this way.
Or having to manage, right?
And gets everything taboo. And then we assume these things that we need to perform for other people. So all the way back to our original, start of the conversation, talking about this power of story and why sharing your story, me having these conversations is like a wonderful step in the right direction.
God, it's incredible. What you're doing is incredible. It really is.
Ditto. I mean, I think, you spilled your guts in 400 and something pages. And not only did it probably help you heal, but now imagine the people that are reading this and the butterfly effect that comes from them feeling healed. And then because they feel healed in some way, they act different around people. And then,
the shift. Yeah, the shift.
It just becomes a beautiful thing.
Yeah. What's really interesting? It felt like when the book was done, it felt like I was finishing a sentence that had been left unfinished for a very long time. It was like it felt like one last assignment that I needed to complete before I could move on. Cause now I feel like I could put it down. That part of my life down. I don't have to carry anything because I feel like I worked it all out.
Yeah.
I don't have to carry any of that stuff with me into this next phase.
Yeah. But you're still the same thread.
I'm still the same thread.
So it's like you just put down your luggage.
Yeah. I dropped the luggage.
You moved
the little
in.
girls with me, the dancers with me, the entrepreneur, we're all here now. And now we can have fun because there's nothing, I feel like there's less baggage. There's not a lot of things holding me back now.
Nothing to prove.
There's nothing to prove. There's nothing to perform. Let's just have a good time.
I love that. Do you love that for yourself now?
I love that so much. I love it so much. It's so freeing.
I bet.
And it's cool because I wake up and I'm like, okay, what are we doing today? What's happening?
And like, are you pretty spontaneous? Are you a spontaneous person?
I can be. Not. Okay. I go back and forth.
Okay. So you're not like, I woke up and I want to go climb a mountain. And you just
I do. I do want to travel more. I will. I mean, if you say, let's go to Japan, I'll be like, let's do it. We'll go. I love Japan. But yeah, I love to travel.
Don't go back to Bangkok in May.
Well, we're going to take my parents back to Bangkok, but we go in December.
That's smart. I literally had like salt crystals forming on my forehead. Like I was so dehydrated. It was.
Oh my God, it's awful. Why would you go in May?
Because it was cheap or something, and I wasn't working at the time.
Probably because no one was
for 2 weeks. Right? Yeah. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. This for everyone. If you're going to travel during, like, right before the pandemic. So sorry, but I went 2 weeks to Thailand. We went to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Phuket, and like 12 days, I think, or so. I spent $2,600 total. Wow. That includes the flight, hotels, multiple flights, actually, all massages, all the things that come with going on a vacation.
My gosh, when I was last, you can't go wrong. I'm sorry, I totally cut you off. But yeah, I had a massage for 2 hours for $13. How do you relax in that massage if you're paying $13?
Yeah, with tip, you're like, here's 20. It's pretty crazy. But it sounds like you can do those things now and not, just do whatever you want and kind of live the life that you don't have to prove to anyone.
Yes, and I'm so excited. I really am. I'm grateful that I'm still here, but grateful that I have that opportunity.
Yeah. If you could go back to a younger version of yourself, maybe, someone that is putting down that, or maybe the version of you that was kind of settling the children's fashion line that you had and everything. Is there anything like current 2026 you'd want to say to her about what she's about to go through?
Oh gosh. I would tell her, I would probably just hold her first. And then I would say, you're about to go through the hardest thing that you've ever had to face, but you also don't know yet how strong you are. There will be fear, lots of fear. There'll be grief. There'll be days when you wake up and you're angry, you're confused, and you may not be able to see what's next. I think I would also tell her that she doesn't have to carry it alone. Because at that point, I was doing everything on my own and I felt like that was strength, right? So I would tell her that, and that's what cancer showed me, that strength can also look like letting people love you and care for you and be there. I would tell her that you may feel like you're losing something, but this is not the whole story, that there is joy still and there is more purpose and that there's a beautiful life waiting for you on the other side. And you're going to meet parts of yourself that you never knew you needed. And yeah, that's what I would tell them.
What do you think that version would say to you after you said all that?
Yeah, right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm just closing this business. Crazy. Yeah.
Calm down.
But isn't that a beautiful exercise to think about, like, what we actually needed at those moments? And
yes,
most people, when I ask them a similar question, it's what the first thing you said was, I would just give them a hug or just sit with them for a little bit and let them know that everything was going to be okay. And that's basically what you just said in a more writer-like way, that everything, no, I think it was beautiful. And I'm glad that you found this space and you found this freedom to just be unapologetically you and not have to prove anything to everyone else. If people are listening to your story now, they definitely want to check out your book. They want to find you, get in your circle, reach out to you and tell you how much a part of your story or something we talked about today reached them where they needed it. What's the best way to find you, get in your orbit?
I have all my links and everything, events and social links and all of that on my website. It's called splitandtype.com. Or you can find me on socials, Taira Soo or Taira Soo Author. I believe we have a couple of those pages up somewhere. But if you go to my website, you'll be able to find it.
That's perfect. We'll put in some of the links in the show notes so people can easily reach it. I because we've talked so much about the power of story, I really encourage people, if they hear or they feel compelled to reach out to anybody after hearing their story, do it. Because there's so much power in sharing your story for the first time or letting someone know how it connected to you. Things are a lot messier in my head. And then when I get them out, everything kind of makes a little bit more sense. So I really encourage people that maybe they're holding on to something and something that you said sparked something for them and they want to reach out to you.
So
yeah. So
I hope so.
Please do that, everyone. And thank you for just going on this journey and letting me talk in circles in that certain part of our episode,
I was talking in circles too, so it was fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I really appreciate it. Every story that I get to hear heals a little part of me that I didn't know needed to be healed. And so I just take these with me and now I am the lucky one. I get to listen to all these stories and partake in these stories and think about the younger version of me that was afraid to ask questions because what if I asked the wrong question? And it's fine. Everything goes on, right? If you ask the wrong question, at least you know. So I appreciate you going on this journey with me in this particular way. I appreciate everyone listening. Here we are, 275
Thank you.
plus episodes.
Yes. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And yay. I will be back in a couple days with a brand new episode. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Life Shift Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com. There you can check out all the different episodes. You can check out the blog, some of the reviews for the podcast, and the Life Shift Journal. Links are there so you can purchase your own copy, whether in digital or print format. Thanks again.
Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.